On this episode of Swoop Luke. At this point, we'll have won 4 in a row, but so have the Giants. The game that will give us the most trouble, I think, is this Essendon game. Roll the intro. Hey everyone, what's going on? Thank you for tuning in. This episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm doing a ladder prediction and finals, who wins, stuff like that off the AFL app. Also on Instagram and Facebook, I wanted to know if you had any questions for me to answer in regards to this ladder prediction, if we're going to finish in the top 4, how the finals are going to look, and I got some really good responses and I'll read those out at the end of the episode and answer them for you. So let's kick things off with my predicted ladder. So this is the current ladder. The Pies are sitting 6th currently. There's a lot of teams nipping at our heels and a lot of teams that are on top of us at around the same points. This next month is going to be really huge for us. 4 very winnable games: Gold Coast, Melbourne, Adelaide away, and then Essendon, which could decide if we finish top 4 or not. So with these tips, I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. Going down, I've got Essendon beating Port, the Giants. I think they're going to steamroll in the next couple of weeks. You know, Geelong, Richmond, all the usual suspects. I was going to do points, but then I thought I have to do it for everyone and it's just going to be, you know, a bit hard. Saints, obviously us against Gold Coast. I've got us winning both the Gold Coast game and the Melbourne game coming up. So I'm not saying that they'll be easy wins, but I think they are very winnable games. Also, as you can see, it's pretty easy for teams to drop 2 spots or, you know, rise 2 spots. It's that close at the top. So I've got the Lions beating Geelong up at the Gabba. I've also got us beating Adelaide in Adelaide for 3 on the trot. And it really all comes down to this final round. It also comes down to percentage, but because I haven't done points, that percentage is going to stay the same. And as you can see coming up, we'll beat Essendon, I think anyway. At this point, we'll have won 4 in a row, but so have the Giants. And as you can see in this ladder, the Giants beat us by percentage. We've finished 5th, got Richmond in 6th, 7th is Essendon, and St Kilda finishing the 8th because they've got a really easy run coming home. And I think they will turn it around with Brett Radden at the helm. So first week of finals, Geelong, Collingwood, Richmond and West Coast. All the home teams really winning those games. We played the Giants in that semi, we beat them, and then Brisbane go on and beat Richmond, which leaves Geelong and Brisbane. I think Brisbane are a really good team. They're going to beat Geelong and we're going to beat West Coast and we're premiers. Just as easy as that. So if you couldn't tell, that was my tips, all based on the heart, especially that final series with us finishing 5th and somehow miraculously winning and becoming premiers. It's not going to be as easy as that. So this is how I think that final series will actually go down. First week stays the same, but the second week, the Giants just get the better of us. In the end, the Lions are the premiers. I really love what Fagan's done with that team. They're a good running team. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they're literally playing like they are the kings of the jungle at the moment. So in this scenario, it's pretty much the same, but I've gone for Collingwood games with a margin just to see if that has any effect on the final ladders. But of course, no one else has changed their margin, so it definitely won't, but we'll just see how it pans out. I've also gone with the left field choice here, and I've tipped Carlton against Richmond. I think Carlton are coming home with a full head of steam. They've got their confidence up. They've won the last 4 of their 5 games, and I think they're due for a big scalp. And thankfully, it's Richmond and not us. And as you can see here, not even a 100-point win at the end of the season against Essendon will give us that top 4 spot if the Giants win everything. So the Giants do need to drop a couple games. I think that'll happen, as you can see, with Hawthorn. And I also think that the Bulldogs might be able to knock them off as well. But any game that the Giants drop doesn't really matter if we can't win all 4 of our games. So we versed the Cats in the finals, tipped us against them because I really don't like the Cats, and we're premiers again. So in this next scenario, I've started to make teams lose a little bit more, trying to be as unbiased as I can. I've got Port Adelaide knocking off Essendon, and I've also got the Doggies knocking off Essendon, and I think that's very plausible. As you can see, this is one of the more likely scenarios, as if Essendon do drop some games, we can lose that last game to Essendon and we still finish in 5th spot. So this final scenario only happens if we win all 3 and Essendon win all 3 and the Giants drop a couple of games. You can see that a win here boosts us up to 4th or all the way down to 6th. And obviously, top 4, you want to get that double chance. So a lot is going to be riding on this last game if this scenario takes place. So that's all my ladder stuff and my finals predictions. Ladders are really contentious because as much as I want to stay unbiased, of course that Collingwood bias does come out of me. I think the best scenario for us is finishing 5th and we verse the 8th team, which will more than likely be St Kilda, according to my predictions. The game that will give us the most trouble, I think, is this Essendon game. Alright, so now it's time to answer some social media questions, and thank you to everyone for sending those questions in. So let's kick it off with Sebastian McLeod, who asks, should Steve-O come in straight away? Do you think he'll gel well with the rest of the boys quickly if we do make the finals? So yeah, I think Steve-O is a walk-in into that final 22 in the first week of finals. He has gone gel really well with those guys. According to reports and according to Pendlebury on his podcast, Steve-O's training the house down. I know everyone says that, but he's working really hard on the track apparently, putting in the hard yards. You've got to think that because this isn't an injury and it's a self-inflicted wound almost, he has to prove something, and if he's proving it out on the training track, he'll definitely prove it in the first week of the finals. I do think the boys are going to welcome him with open arms, especially De Goey and Cox. De Goey because it'll let him push up into the midfield and he won't get the first best defender in the forward line. Steve-O will give him a little bit of trouble, and also Cox as well. He won't get the second best defender. Gives him a little bit more space to work in the forward line, and there will be less pressure on the both of them. Alright, so Pies Army _ asks, how do we make our way back to the top 4? What teams we need to lose for us to climb back up? How many of the remaining games would we need to win, and by how much to be a good chance? So I don't know by how much, because as you just saw, I didn't do any of the margins. To make top 4, the Earth, the Sun, the Moon, and all the planets have to align perfectly. The Giants need to drop 1 or 2 games. Richmond can't win more than 2 games, and they do have a difficult fixture coming up, so I don't think they will. But in saying that, we have to win them all or she's all over. It's doable, but definitely not easy given our casualties at the moment and seeing as our morale is just non-existent. I've always said and been a firm believer that if you've got to start relying on other teams to lose or yourself to win by a decent margin for percentage, you've already lost. And shout out to Nick Hall 00 for also getting in on this comment and question thread. Pies Army _ also asks, how do you feel about certain players changing positions? Heard a lot of talk today about moving side bottom forward. Interesting stuff. So yeah, I saw that article as well. I think David King wrote that, side bottom moving forward. You know, he's smart. He kicked 10 goals in that TAC Cup Grand Final when he was younger. Obviously plays off the wing now, goes into the middle a little bit, but I do think that's a good move. When he took the majority of our midfield time last year, he was resting in the forward line. He's actually a really good shot at goal, and I wouldn't mind seeing him in that forward line. Very smart with the ball, and yes, he's not the quickest, he's not the strongest, but he has a good kick on him, and he will give us that bit more of a dynamic, and it also opens up a slot for another midfielder to come into the team. As an example of this change of position theory, Will Huscanalia has moved down back the last 2 or 3 games. I said it in my last video, I really dig him there. He's doing a great job. Again, very smart, good overhead, kind of like Howe. And he changes it up that little bit, opens up that forward line, and you can see that changing positions does work sometimes. So, Jason Del Socorro asks, who do you think will come back in for finals? And how much of a difference do you think Steve-O will make? So yeah, I've already said Steve-O will make a huge difference, opens up that forward line, gives our midfielders another option, which they'll be licking their lips at. So with who comes back for finals, it's really like up in the air because the club doesn't give us week by week or how many weeks a person has got till they come back. So it's kind of like test, unavailable, indefinite, not going to play till, next year. So it's still up in the air. But I think Adams will play before the season ends. De Goey will play before the season ends. Quaynor as well. Apparently Ash is going in for surgery on Monday, which is today. So I think he'll come back for finals as well. You really want more to get up with this hamstring. I heard he's a couple of weeks away. So I don't think they should bring more back before that first week of finals. I think just rest him up, keep him in cotton wool. Steve-O obviously comes back. And who I'd love to see come back is Daniel Wells. We all know what he did with his knee in round 10. Apparently he's pushing for a miraculous return. He would add that very awesome dynamic into our midfield, even into that forward line, which I think we really need at the moment. So finally, CFC _ 1892 asks if I've seen any of the rumours surrounding what's going on in the club and if that affects our poor performance, and would you place the blame on our hefty injury list? He also says, last year we had an injury crisis and overcame it, where blokes played their role and stepped up. So I'm not going to comment on the specific rumours, but I'm sure a quick Google search will find those rumours for you. Don't tell Google I sent you. But I do think that there's something in that club that is rotting us. That's such a harsh word. Not rotting us, but I just feel like something is in that club that we don't know about, that's just kind of causing tension amongst the players and amongst the staff. And I guess you can kind of see it with how we play and how we go about it. Injuries do play a huge part, but I don't want to blame injuries because we kind of had the exact same personnel out last year and we made the grand final. But you've got to think that last year we had that Swoop squad kicking over, 100 goals, you know. Will Hoskin-Elliott over 40 goals. Josh Thomas over 30 goals. Jaden Stevenson over 30 goals. And we don't have that this year. They're not doing that. Obviously, Steve-O's not doing that, but Hoskin-Elliott and Josh Thomas. So we just can't blame injuries. We have to blame poor form, poor game plan, and yes, I do think that there's something in the club that's just rotting away at the morale in there. Alright, so this was a little bit different. Thank you so much for the questions, and also thank you so much to Timmy5 for this suggestion. Really love doing it. Hopefully it comes out well on the edit. I don't know what's going to happen, but in the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, I'll swoop you later. I also asked Instagram, why does it sound like a shotgun? What the is wrong with me? This is why I script everything. I also have got us beating Collingwood, damn it.